Hey everybody, this is Mike Vassallo. This is another episode of Yeah, What's the Rate? And I have my good friend and real estate agent, Lisa Adragna from Compass, with me today. This is the first episode of 2025. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you
I
for
know you're
having me.
super nervous. I know you're super nervous. It will be totally fine. Like I was saying, it's just we're talking about what we're seeing in the market, what's going on, what we see for the spring that's going to be around the corner. But first and foremost, the question that I always ask is, how did you get into real estate?
So I got into real estate coming from being a speech therapist, actually. And I was trying to sell my co-op in Queens. And I brought over an agent who came highly recommended. And he sat at my table and he was falling asleep.
Oh, God.
He was literally falling asleep. And I was asking him questions and he wasn't answering my questions. And my husband looked at me and I looked at him and I said, I don't even know what to do because this guy is not here. He's not with us. And, I kind of clapped and, touched the table and he came back and he said, you have a lot of questions.
Right.
I think you'd be a really good real estate agent. And I was a speech therapist at the time.
Right.
And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? And he said, I really do think you should try to sell this on your own. He gave up the listing. And I took a step back and I said, all right, I'm not going to sell this right now. And I still actually own it. And I said, you know what? I've always loved houses and I love new construction and I loved helping people, being in the helping field already and the teaching field. And I said, I want to try this. Like out of the blue, he gave me that advice and it just struck a chord.
Wow.
Yeah. And I said to him, I did actually call him and I said to him, times are a little tight though. Like I would love to do this and I would love to work with you and your company, but I can't afford the class. And he said to me that he believed in me that much that he paid for the class.
He paid for the class.
He paid for everything. And to get the license, he paid for everything.
Wow.
So I did it. It was just like a leap of faith. And I did it. And I'm so glad I did because I ended up stopping, doing what I was doing at the time. I'm not a speech therapist anymore, but I've loved it ever since.
Wow, that's great. So I have a similar story, which I've spoken about briefly on here, is that like I thought I was going to be a teacher, and then and then just kind of fell into it. It was like, and it's so random. And
Did you get the degree?
No, so I have a 4-year degree as a sociology major, and then needed to go for my master's, and then mortgages came up, and then next thing you know, this was it. So
that's really similar.
It was kind of funny because it was one of those things where it's like I never even thought about sales or doing mortgage, anything, to be honest with you. I was like, I want to have my summers off. I want to retire at 50. So now it's like, I got no summers off, whatever. It's 24/7, but there's lots of pros and cons, I love it. I love it.
We don't miss the sports games for the kids.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, and there's a price that I feel like that is, it's priceless to be able to be present and be around family, your kids, which you and I are always going to and from something. If it's not real estate or mortgages, it's a baseball game or soccer, gymnastics, basketball, something, know. So this gives us that ability to do it.
Definitely.
And I know before we came on, we were discussing like how long it's been since we've known one another.
My goodness.
And literally we were saying it was when we both actually started like at the same time.
Right. 14 years ago.
It's crazy.
Yeah. You stumbled into my office.
Yeah.
I ended up leaving that office in Queens, going to Keller Williams in Williston Park, which is no longer there.
Yep.
And there I was a newbie and there you were.
Yeah.
And
trying to figure it all out.
Trying to figure it all out.
And we're still standing.
And we
still
are.
Here. Yeah,
we are.
Still here.
And still doing business together, which is awesome. And I think that being new at the time together, we were able to kind of learn from each other.
Yeah.
And then we realized we both went to school in the same town.
Yes,
Valley
Stream.
Which
of course. Yeah.
Ironic.
It's crazy
but
how it all works out.
It is.
Yep.
It is.
And like I said, in that time, over the last 14 years, we've seen lots of changes. We've seen low rates, high rates. We've seen the prices of homes, double, triple compared to what they were when they first started. So, I mean, it definitely has been a roller coaster.
It has been.
And we were discussing also before, like what are we asking of buyers and sellers, or what are the questions they're asking us with what they should do? Here we are. It's a new year. We have a new president. Not getting political whatsoever. I don't want to go down that road.
No.
But. But there's a lot of things like for this year that we don't know what's going to really happen, and we hope that rates will come down a little bit, which will hopefully change sellers' minds and buyers' minds and everything. But what have you been seeing? When speaking with buyers, speaking with sellers, what have kind of been the
So the trend that I'm finding, and I kind of try to debunk this a lot, is the hesitation that they feel, seller or buyer, And more so on the seller's end because they feel like, well, why am I going to give up my low rate? And if I do, to either downsize or move out of state, where am I going? Because I'm finding even with agents that I know and deal with in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Delaware, they still have low inventory there as well. So a lot of people have this hesitation. And when I speak to other agents that I'm friends with, they say the same thing, like everybody's hesitating. So nobody's taking that leap where like after the COVID time, it was crazy. And no one even thought about it. They just said, I'm selling, I'm moving, I'm buying. And it was no stopping. And now everybody's taking a step back and finding a million different reasons to not take that jump. And I feel like the piece that they're missing is that if the rate does go down, they're going to end up having a lot more competition of other buyers, and the prices are going to skyrocket, and they're going to end up having that same bottom line, that same payment, and it's not really going to change much. So I feel like people need to really think about their whys of why they want to sell or why they want to buy. And really have a conversation with somebody like you to figure out not like what is the house going to cost me, like the sales price, but what is my bottom line? What is my monthly payment looking like today?
At the end, with today's rate, with the payment and everything. Well, everyone, it's referred to as the golden handcuffs for people that don't know. And the golden handcuffs are, these people that purchased or refinanced or whatever during COVID and have these 2.5%, 3% rates. And you're at a point in your life where maybe you had only one kid at that time, or maybe you were newly married and now you're starting a family and you need more room. But at the same time, you don't want to give up that interest rate you have.
No.
So now what do you do? Or maybe you're older, your kids have moved out and now you want to sell and go somewhere else. The only one on the older side is that if you're selling and have a ton of equity and then going to go somewhere and buy cash, then you don't care what the hell the rate is. It's irrelevant at that point. But majority of the people we work with, it's not a fact of, having the equity. We all have the equity sitting in the house, but it's getting rid of and losing that 3% rate or that 2%, 2.5, 2.6. And even saying 7, it's nauseating for most. Going back to what you said is that, if you do have to move or circumstances change, what are your choices? You're going to either have if you wait, rates are going to go down. Values are going to go up. You'll almost guarantee. I would have to think when the rates go down, the values will go up. Because in my eyes, if I was a buyer and my mortgage guy was like, "Hey, great news, rates are 5%,"
everyone's jumping.
The first response someone have was, "Wait, now that $900,000 house I was looking at, now I could afford because the rate's 5%." Right.
And now you're paying $100,000 more.
Right. Exactly. But in most people's mind as a buyer, they don't even care because they're just like, "Oh wow, I could get more now because my rate is less."
Right.
And when that happens, that's where we're going to have that issue. So it's crazy. And I think educating, and I know we were saying like educating your buyer, educating your seller with that onboarding process is key.
Definitely.
How about that client we're still working with or whatever, but she vanished, for a little bit and then just resurfaced the other day. And still like even now feeling like she's ready. But there's still hesitation.
She still has that hesitation, 100%. And it's about, the down payment and, do I have enough equity in my house to pull some money out? And, a big thing with her too, even in this market right now is I'm afraid, she said, to have the competition of other buyers and go over asking and all that stuff. Well, what's going to happen in 6 months from now if the rate does go down? The 4 or 5 buyers she's competing with right now is going to be 12 to 15 buyers she's competing with.
Then she's definitely, and then you're never going to get it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just want to encourage people to really have the, like a nitty gritty kind of conversation and get down to the details and don't be afraid to sound kind of vulnerable. Like, these are my fears, these are my worries, but let's really talk about what the monthly payment's going to look like and let me try. I actually told someone the other day because they've been hesitating, a different person, but I said, if you don't try and kind of throw something up against the wall, you never know.
You're not going to know. Yeah, you're not going to know. And that's the problem. And then when most of the people will wait because they don't like, the other person, I want to speak to somebody else. Because you can speak to anybody you want, but the answer is going to be the same. There's not a magical program out there. No. It is what it is. So even though you don't like what I'm saying, this is the reality of what your choices are. And I think at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that people are going to wait. Then I don't want to say everything we're saying now is going to become true, but I can't think of another option.
The trends have shown.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? And then it's going to pivot. Now those buyers will not be having homes to buy because there's going to be so much competition.
There will be.
And then you got a whole refi boom now coming back because now all these people that bought at 7 are now refinancing to 6, to 5, whatever it may be. So, I mean, at this point, it's a guessing game.
Yeah.
But I find educating the client has been more so than I've ever done before, which is good because you know what? There's no surprises.
No.
The one thing I have to say personally is when I have a conversation with a client now, and it's the most awkward thing ever because it always was the first question was what are the rates?
Because they want to hear something good. And
Yeah,
you don't have anything
and
great to say.
and they know, and I know the podcast obviously. What's the rate? Which we always joke about in the office. It's like that's not the question anymore.
Right.
People kind of know the rates suck. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way to sugarcoat it. If I told you were getting 7.125 or 6.875. Do you really care at that point? Like,
No.
seriously. And I know there's a difference, obviously, in payment. And
Yeah.
yes, you do want the lower rate of the two, but it's not stopping you from purchasing your house when
Right.
I tell you the rate is an eighth or a quarter higher
It
at that
shouldn't.
point.
It shouldn't.
It is what it is.
I feel like a lot more people versus last summer are coming out and trying to buy because I do see more competition on listings. Like I put out a listing last week, a small little condo in Amityville, and we went over multiple offers and
It's wild.
yeah.
It's
So
wild.
I feel like though last summer there was a little bit less, I feel, of
Okay.
that bidding war kind of happening because I feel like some people pulled back and they were kind of hoping the rate was going to drop and then
Yes.
it really didn't. And then I think people were like, well,
And
let me just go out there now because it's not going down.
Well, I think the
So now I'm
election
seeing
had
it
a lot
again.
to do with it because
Definitely.
everybody was like, I'm going to wait to see what happens. I'm going to
Right.
wait to see what happens. I'm going to
Yeah.
wait to see what happens.
Yeah.
So here we are. Now we fast forward here. Now you know what's happened.
Nothing's
really changed, right? I
Nothing's
mean, right
happened.
now everything is. So now what are you going to wait for? Like, and that's the thing. It's like there's never. It's like I know it's like you don't buy you buy real estate and wait. You don't
Yeah.
wait to buy real estate.
Right.
And some of these cliche things, as corny as they are, they're true. You know, it's like the other one is date the rate, marry the house.
Right.
Right.
Yes,
Date the
yes.
rate. You know, and it's like you get it because it is what it is. These are different things that we all say, and whether they're corny or not, it kind of breaks it down to layman's terms of
Yeah.
like this is it.
I've told buyers
know?
that too. I know it sounds so stupid when you say it, but
It's
I
just,
said it.
but it's like everyone is saying
But
it
it's
because it's
true.
just one of those things where it's like there's never going to be a right time.
No.
When you're ready, and you just do it.
Yep.
Are you going into the spring market? I always, at the beginning of the year, especially January, February, try to do new things with my business or things that I didn't do in the past. I try to incorporate into my business now, moving into the future for this new year.
Right.
Are there any things in particular or specific that you're trying to do differently this year? Or
Yeah. So for sure. So, it's always been so busy. Since we first met, it's been great,
Yeah,
right? No
yeah, yeah,
complaints
yeah.
really. But since, things have kind of shifted since the
it's
rate.
it's
and
like the first kind
we're
of
in
like
that-
we're in that. Yeah, we're like, oh, okay.
we're like
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I never really thought about. And listen, coming from education, that being like a speech therapist
Mm-hmm.
before, I really knew about all the school districts in Long Island, and I felt really confident about educating people. So I always worked everywhere, and I still kind of do.
Okay.
But so I never said, well, I'm just going to focus on one area, which I know a lot of agents do. They do that.
Yes, yeah.
But I never felt like I needed to. But because we're in that sort of like downturn a little
Right.
bit, I decided to do that, to focus. But of course, I can't do one because, I'm all over the
Yes,
place.
yeah.
So I am focusing on 4 areas and
Okay.
doing something that I've never done before, which is, sending out some letters, trying to reach out to some
Yeah.
people, really focusing hard on reaching out to people that I've done past business with, which, I have in the past, to people
Yeah.
that I became friendly with,
Okay.
but not to everybody.
Yeah.
Because, you do what
And they
time
always say
permits.
that's your best source of
Right.
referral business is your
Right.
past clients. They've worked with you.
Exactly.
They
They
can
know
vouch for
you.
you. They'll be your biggest cheerleader.
Exactly.
I mean,
and I know like we've gone out for breakfast, but like I've never really gone out for breakfast with a
clients.
past client,
Yeah.
but lately I have. And like when
Yeah.
I call them, they're like, yeah, let's
They
go.
would
Let's
love
have
that.
coffee
Yeah,
and breakfast.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
they're like, let's do it again.
Yep.
So that's something that I'm really trying to focus on this year
Okay.
because I realize that, you do spend a lot of time with a buyer.
You guys
person.
do. You guys do on the agent end. You do.
really
I
do.
don't, unfortunately. Some of them I don't even end up getting to meet
In
But
person,
you
right.
guys, I mean,
We
you're out on
do.
the weekend taking them
Yes.
out. You're
Text
not,
at 10 at night,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah.
And, my son will joke and be like, what are you going to do when that person doesn't text you anymore? Because you're talking to them
Yeah,
all day
yeah,
long.
yeah.
And I'm like, and like that, for instance, that story, because that's actually true. We did go out for breakfast about a month ago and it was great.
Yeah.
And, like you feel like you actually become friendly,
Yes, yeah.
your friends.
You almost become an extension of their family
You
to some
do.
degree, to the point where, I mean, again, more so with you guys on the agent end is that, personal personal things they're going through, or they'll tell you deep dark secrets. I mean, stuff you may not want to know.
You become an agent, a friend, a therapist,
the whole shebang.
Everything.
And it's like, and then they close on the house, and then boom, it's
gone.
over.
Right.
And it's like, all right, now what? And then another relationship starts, and then with a new person or whatever, and then you forget about so we're all guilty of that, myself as well. A couple of weeks ago, I'm sitting here. A guy comes in. He was doing like a survey on the building. The landlord had hired a survey or some inspection or whatever to be done. And a voice was like, "Is Mike Vassallo here?" And I was like, "What the hell did I do? Am I in trouble?" I was like, "Oh shit." So I'm like, I get up. I'm like, "Yeah, can I ask who's asking or whatever?" He's like, "You don't recognize my voice?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, "Well, shit, did we go to high school together? Did we?" Right. I don't know. Like, did something happen in the past? I don't know. And he goes, "Oh, it's so and so. You did my mortgage." And I'm like, "Holy shit!" I was like, "Oh my god, what's going on? How's everything?" And it was like,
and now you're like,
"What's
friends.
a cool thing to like be able to meet someone?" And it was during COVID, so I did not go to the closing. I wasn't able to visit. So I would have no idea who this person was if he didn't come up to me. And it's just one of those things where it's like you almost forget about those past clients.
Yeah, and they are the most important because they do trust you the most, and those are the people that will feel 1,000% confident referring you to somebody that they know
100% because they've dealt with you. Yeah, they can
work
vouch
with
for
you.
you.
Now you're friendly with them, and they know you on a more personal level. So I'm actually going through my phone a lot more, and reaching out to people, and just saying like, hey, I kind of miss you.
What's going on? Yeah, and it is an out of sight, out of mind thing. It
is.
I say that with our referral partners too, and I even say it to the guys on the team and everything. It's like it's like you're only as good as your last deal, and it's out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
If you're not present at these events or networking things, you're not present on social media, it's kind of like an out of sight, out of mind, and you'll be forgotten very quickly because there's 100 real estate agents, there's 100 mortgage professionals, thousands, attorneys, whatever it may be. You will be forgotten very quickly. So you almost have to leave your stamp or trademark or impression in all different areas. And that's what we were saying. Like, as we grow older in this industry, doing this.
We are the old ones.
Yeah, not yet. No, we're not. No, we're not.
I
ain't giving it. I don't care. I don't care. We're not there yet.
All right.
But,
I'll take
in doing something like this and having this podcast and being on the social platforms and stuff, I think is a part of the business growing in the direction that your first time home buyers now, like my kids, like, I don't know when they come to when they're ready to buy a house, I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on Snapchat. I feel like I got to be on those. I don't even know how to freaking do that stuff.
They'll teach you.
But
my son taught me.
I feel like if I'm not on those platforms, then by the time they're ready to buy, they're going to be like, "Dad, you're on Instagram?
Yeah.
You're on Facebook?"
Somebody these things said to me, they are like, that's it. This is the way. Somebody said to me, and this like always resonates, and how much I'm like, I don't want to do videos. But someone said to me, you'll meet 10 people, if that, at an open house and get to show who you are and talk to them and whatnot. But you can reach so many more people by doing what we're doing, as uncomfortable as it could be sometimes. But you're getting a platform to showcase your wherewithal, your skills, who you are as a person, and you can reach so many more people. So as much as I'm like, I don't want to do it, I don't want to talk on camera, but I'm realizing that it's so important because I can teach them everything that's in my brain, because how useless is it if it's just in here and I can't share it?
And it creates an identity, because in that open house that you're hosting or doing, you don't have the ability for people to get to know who you are.
No.
Right?
And I can't explain anything that I know to them, really, because I'm just talking about the property, obviously.
And some first-time home buyers recently, I've had them be referred to me, and I've seen that they've looked at my social media or looked at something even before calling me. So it's like they, now, so that even more strengthens what I'm saying about how important it is to be there, because people are it's almost like an interview or a resume before they even contact you. Like, who is this guy? Who is Lisa? Let me see her reviews. Let me see her social media. Let me see her past sales. There's that process that people do now. And when they go on your social media, they go on my social media, they see houses. They see your family. They see the baseball game. They see, and very quickly you could be like, wow, that's a good person. Or we have similarities. Or we have no similarities.
That just happened to me
You'd be
last
like,
night.
oh my God, no, this is not a match.
For me.
Yeah, it's not my whatever, and that's fine.
It's a little scary though too, but it does make sense because you will read through who you want to work with and who you don't.
Yeah.
I had we have a little internal system at Compass where you can kind of meet other agents to refer your clients to
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it actually is really cool. I've done several deals that way. I've referred out, they referred to me.
Okay.
But there's a lot of competition, obviously, just within the one company, right?
Yeah.
So, but there was a post of an agent in Manhattan that needed someone in Long Island for all areas that I either grew up in, where we grew up, and then moving into other areas.
Right.
And I said, well, I'm going to take a shot and I'm going to reach out to this agent. So, you can reach out on the platform or you can text them, email, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I kept at it because also, you keep reaching out until they tell you, where to go. But I kept reaching out, and saying, I'd love to help your clients. And she responded with, can you send me your social medias? And I was like, yeah, sure. Right. And I did. And I sent her my Instagram and I sent her my small little TikTok and, the Facebook page and everything. And obviously my Compass page and the website. And she said, I love it. And then and you want to know what her next question was? It wasn't how many houses did you sell? Because that they could find. Right.
Yeah.
It was, tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah.
And this agent wanted to know, did I have kids? Did I have dogs? What do I do in my spare time? She knows
she knows what you're doing.
Right.
You should be the best at your craft.
Exactly.
That's what I tell people.
Exactly.
Like I say guys in the office and girls in the office, I'm like, you shouldn't have to sell the fact on financial equities has the lowest interest rates.
Yeah.
We have
that we'll answer the phone
We
when
have
you call.
the cheapest closing costs. So yeah, when you call, we answer. Like these are things that should be staples for everyone. I know it's not the case for most or many, I should say, or whatever, but that should be a standard. So I shouldn't have to sell myself on, work with me because my rates are lower than X.
It's everything else.
You know what? It's everything else.
Yeah.
Everything else. I want to work with you because we vibe. Mm-hmm. We have similarities with one another.
Exactly.
We have a common team. I like the Yankees. I know you guys like the Mets. So that we don't have in common. But
we got so
yeah. We don't want them anyway.
Oh, come on. Gonna regret that in a couple of months.
I know. Hopefully get hurt. I'm just joking.
No, you're not.
But no, these are things where it's like, what, those things mean more. And when I'm looking to align myself with a referral partner, I'm looking for things where like I can have a commonality with that person.
Definitely.
Because it just makes the job more fun.
Yep.
You know what? We're making money. We're having fun.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like working with someone
and you're relatable.
Yeah,
you could be relatable.
Yeah, 100% on a daily basis. Whether it's someone with a child or a sports team or whatever it may be, even ethnic background or heritage or whatever it may be. It could be any of those things.
Right, like for some people, maybe they don't want me. I don't speak a certain language, and that's okay, But it ended up that she said, I'm sending you the referral. This is awesome. And, I'm so excited that I kept at it and, reached out to her and sent her everything that, I possibly could.
But look how she asked you for your social media.
Yeah.
So now what if you didn't have a social media?
I'd be dead in the
water. And there's many people that don't.
Dead in the water.
If you responded, well, I'm sorry, I don't
have an
I've sold
Instagram.
1 million homes, but I have no social media. She probably, I know it sounds crazy, but she wanted to be able to have an identity when she saw you and say, oh, Lisa's good people.
Right. Who is this person that I'm referring? And it ends up that these are actually like her friends. So this is, it's a big
important.
deal.
Yeah.
If I was
it's a huge
friend,
reflection of who she sends that referral to.
Exactly. So,
and again, going back to the youth and stuff, I enjoy, I don't want to say the most, but I really do like working with first-time home buyers because I like the I don't want to say just the fact that they don't know anything, or they think they know and you have to educate them, or they were told one thing, but no, it really is another. I really enjoy working with first-time home buyers. So as I get older, will I still gravitate towards that demographic of clientele? Mm-hmm. And that's my goal because I enjoy that the most proud of, out of all, I would say.
Okay.
For someone that's like selling and then getting into another house, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Right.
But I don't get to educate them that much because they've
know
done it already and
Yeah.
stuff, which is fine or whatever. It makes my job easier, to be honest with you. I don't really have to do
or
anything.
they question everything.
Or
you
they
do.
do, right.
Yeah.
They micromanage everything.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy the educational part of it because,
I do too.
It's whether it's
and they
working,
really apprate it.
Yeah. Whether it's
they really
working on a
do.
credit score or a down payment, or somebody yesterday called me and said they thought they only could go FHA.
Right.
And that's what they heard from another lender. And I was like, to be honest with you, I said, I'll be straight with you. I said, lenders make more money on FHA loans.
Yeah.
And I said, you do qualify for FHA, but I said, you also qualify for conventional, which is a hell of a lot cheaper.
And that right there builds the trust.
Correct. And the guy was like, "Are you
truth.
serious?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I was like, did you?" He goes, "I didn't know what to ask." He
They don't
goes,
know.
"I have no idea." He goes, "This is the first time hearing it, but I
Yeah.
thought I had to add 20% or whatever." So I'm like, "There it goes." I said, "The educational thing."
Right.
So will I make less on it? Yeah, but karma and be able to sleep at night
100%.
and knowing that person's going to refer me to every police officer on the police force and stuff,
That's huge.
It's not even a question.
No.
But it goes back to the industry. There's people in the industry that are solid. There's people in the industry that are, in all aspects, and not just our industry, in all aspects of
Everywhere.
life. So I just try to do the right by everyone. And then, like I said, it comes full circle.
Yeah, it definitely does. I also have been focusing a lot on the seniors. So I got my senior certification. I don't know if I told you.
No, I didn't know that.
So I became a senior
awesome.
real estate specialist.
Okay.
And working a lot, going into actually the facilities where, they have like memory loss and dementia. A lot of those people obviously have to sell their houses, and it's much harder.
Okay.
And it's a little bit, there's a little more trauma involved
Sure.
with the family.
It's emotional. I mean,
It's very
too.
emotional.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of education too, because they have a lot of different options, right? Like they could age in place, which doesn't necessarily mean stay in their house. It can mean like staying in another home that's more safer.
Right.
So downsizing. So, selling that one bigger property, moving into a smaller one, or then helping them into a facility. So I've been focusing a lot on that too.
Okay.
And that's been really rewarding, but very eye-opening at the same time.
Sure.
There's so many challenges that, those types of people are dealing
Right.
with.
How do you segue into that? You're walking, are you walking in or setting up appointments, or you're meeting with their loved ones, like their their daughters and sons and stuff?
It depends on who reaches out to you, but what I was lucky enough to do is make some connections to some facilities. The people that actually work in facilities, and I know some home care agencies.
Okay.
So I have
go that way.
I've kind of done that, and then a lot of it is also just things on my own time, volunteering, like helping out with some support groups.
Okay.
I did a lot during the holidays.
Yeah, you got to network
for Thanksgiving. Yeah. Exactly. And you want to know something from networking? I was invited to one of the senior facilities to like a Friendsgiving, a Thanksgiving thing.
Right. Yeah,
it was just a little lunch, but I went. I was a little nervous to go because I didn't really know anybody, but they did invite me, which that's huge. And I ended up talking to another person that was there, also networking for herself. So everybody was there on their own. Nobody was really there with like a friend or a partner, and we kind of gravitated towards each other. And we went out for breakfast, and we really liked each other. And she does some senior placement. So if you're leaving your house, you want to go into a facility or whatnot. She takes you around almost like an agent. She's not an agent, but like
to show you the different facilities and
show you
everything.
the different
That's
facilities,
cool.
which is great. And then at our breakfast, she said, I'm leaving. I'm going back home to Ohio. And I was like, we just met.
Right.
Where are you going? But she said, I need you to list my place for me. Can you sell it for me? And I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah. So she's actually connecting me with one of her partners, which will be great. So I'll still have that connection.
And on top of it, you're selling a property.
So
because you went to the
know.
Friendsgiving.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. You don't, and like I say, your network is your net worth. And it's cliche, again, another one of those sayings or whatever, but it's true because you don't know. You go there with one intention to then find something else. So a lot of times that, we don't like to go to these events or we don't want to, but
you never know who you're going to meet.
You don't know, so it's important.
I always say go with your gut. I always tell my clients or potential clients that too, like even at a listing appointment when I'm talking to them, I'll always tell them, listen, you have to listen to your gut. Yeah. If you feel that you're going to feel comfortable and you trust me to get you to the finish line.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Your gut's going to tell you that. And you don't have to tell me right now. I usually will tell them, go to sleep tonight. And when, when you're thinking and like you're just about to fall asleep, one agent that you've met with is going to float to the surface, right? And you're going to say, well, I could see myself talking to that person literally 24 hours a day.
Spending time with them, working with them, asking them questions, trusting their questions,
feeling
their answers,
comfortable, calling them, and, no question is silly. Like, that you got to trust your gut. So when I was at that lunch, I said, there was a room full of people and some very nice people, some, a little bit standoffish.
Yeah.
But, you kind of gravitate towards the ones that your gut's telling you, go talk to them. So, I kind of feel like that's really important in life. You have to stick with what you feel is going to work and then
just give it and then go all in.
Yeah.
And then go all in. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I always tell my clients that. And
that's cool. I've made a point to this year to try to do more networking things, and not only just real estate.
You do a good job,
but
with that.
I do a lot. But we host a lot of networking events as a company, and we'll go to a lot of real estate events. But even like not in the industry, let's say maybe like you were saying, something that's off the cuff.
That
or whatever.
was off. Yeah, that was not in.
I've been a member of the Northport Chamber of Commerce since we've been here in this office 8 years. I've gone to one meeting.